Amazing moment. Millionaire mistakenly jumps into wrong car. Discovers unexpected kindness. Inside. Alex Thompson adjusted his designer cufflinks as he tossed his leather briefcase into the weathered back seat of a minivan. Frustration brewed beneath his cool exterior. The stakes for the upcoming meeting were sky high and every second counted. The last thing he needed was a mix-up with a lowly mom, still fumbling with her snacks in her cluttered vehicle. "This isn't my car," he said, annoyance creeping into his voice. Maria turned with wide eyes, her two children giggling in the back seat. The warmth of her smile hit him like a flash of uninvited sunlight. "I know. I thought I was just being nice." Her laugh was genuine, and it caught him off guard. He inhaled sharply, quickly shaking off the distraction. He had no time for chit-chat. Yet, as she offered a pack of crackers, the stark contrast of their lives ignited a restless storm inside him. "Thanks, but I don't need those," he replied, each word intentionally detached. Scanning the road, he felt tension mounting. Time crushed under the weight of his anxiety. He couldn't show weakness, especially not here. But Maria's laughter ricocheted off his walls of arrogance, leaving cracks that made him question everything. Did he really have it all? Or was he just another prisoner to his ambitious pursuits? "Sometimes we all need a little break," she said, her voice a steady undercurrent against the cacophony of city life. He grunted in response, grudgingly noting how her hands deftly managed the wheel while feeding her children. Each bite into the cracker seemed to deliver an echo of unspoken sacrifice and resilience. With the skyline gleaming in the distance, the pressure mounted. He checked his watch again. "Before we continue, I need to tell you about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system, and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, click the bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can leave a like, it really helps with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, tell me in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. What was it that kept him tethered to this moment? This minivan. Every tale Maria wove about her dreams and relentless grit pried open memories of his own struggles. The days before money softened the edges of his world. He had climbed to his throne within the ruthless corporate jungle, convincing himself that ambition was everything. The contrast was glaring. Maria juggling bills and bedtime stories, and him, burdened with multi-million-dollar deals that felt like shackles. "What I really wish for," she said, breaking his spiraling thoughts, "is a program that helps our community." The weight of her hope clutched at him. Should he, reveal who he really was? The conundrum twisted deep within him. Did he want to remain an anonymous millionaire? Or did he dare step into the vulnerability of reaching out to someone like Maria? Inhaling deeply, he could feel the walls that defined him as a businessman slowly cracking, stirring an uncomfortable desire for something more meaningful. The air tightened, a thick blanket of expectation stifling his breath. Soon he'd arrive at a fate-changer meeting, but what if this connection led him down another path? As the skyline blurred against his racing thoughts, he faced a moment of undeniable choice and crushing indecision. Time felt frozen, the minivan moving at a crawl while Alex wrestled with the question that could alter not just his course, but the course of one woman's entire life. The horizon lay ahead, but here, against the backdrop of Maria's struggling spirit, a deeper revelation awaited. What would he prioritize, profit or the possibility of genuine compassion? The minivan jolted to a stop, the sudden halt snapping Alex out of his internal battle. "I'm really sorry about this," Maria said, her eyes darting between the rearview mirror and the sidewalk ahead. "I'll get out of your way." As she maneuvered to exit, an impulse surged within Alex, compelling him to speak, to confess, to connect in a way he had never considered before. "Wait," he blurted out, his voice tinged with urgency. Maria turned, her expression a mix of surprise and intrigue. "Can we talk for a minute?" The request felt foreign, almost reckless. "Of course," she said cautiously, curiosity painting her features. "You mean here?" "Yeah, here," he affirmed, uncertain why he felt drawn into this vulnerability. Her world was so starkly different. It was now beckoning him like an uncharted territory he needed to explore. As the children continued their playful banter in the back, his heart raced and he began to peel back the layers of his carefully constructed persona, a persona that was beginning to feel suffocating. "What kind of program were you talking about?" he asked, eager to learn more about her vision which had sparked something deep within him. Maria's enthusiasm illuminated her face. "Oh, I've been thinking about something that supports single parents. You know, mentorship, resources, maybe even a community hub." Each word was poured from her hopes, and Alex found himself mesmerized, hanging on to her every idea. A flicker of ambition ignited in him. But this time it felt different. It was not about climbing the corporate ladder, but building a bridge. "How would you want to fund it?" he probed, intrigued. She hesitated. "Funding is a huge challenge. I dream about getting grants or maybe local businesses sponsoring, but..." Her voice trailed off, the weight of realism creeping back in. Alex leaned back into his seat, a torrent of thoughts crashing within him. What if he could make a real difference? His life had become a constant chase for profit, but Maria's aspirations stirred something, an urge to be valued not just for his wealth, but for his willingness to help ignite change. But could he truly mesh the world of business with genuine compassion? "What if I could help?" he asked, surprised at his own words. Offering support was one thing, risking his reputation was another. The stakes fell heavily on him as he awaited her reaction. Her eyes widened, betraying disbelief before she composed herself. You'd be willing to assist?" "Yes, but I need to know more. I want to understand your vision. I'd like to brainstorm with you." The honesty echoed between them, a thin thread connecting their disparate lives. They chatted for several moments longer, the minivan transformed into an unlikely vessel of dreams. The laughter of her children faded away, replaced by the exploration of aspirations, fears, and the urgency of redefining success. As they spoke, Alex felt an unfamiliar warmth swell inside, a rush of purpose. This was not a mere distraction. It was an awakening. He had always chased numbers, accolades, and status, but perhaps there was another way to assess one's worth. Each question he fired off chipped away at the fortress he had built up around himself. Suddenly, Maria's gaze turned serious. "But what would you get out of it?" Her pointed question hung in the air, echoing with the layers of meritocracy he had always embraced. Alex felt cornered. It was a legitimate inquiry, and perhaps the real test of character lay within his response. "I guess. Maybe I want to find out who I could be, not just what I can achieve." Those words felt like an incantation, a bold step toward understanding himself beyond ambition. Yet deep within him, the looming specter of his upcoming meeting loomed darkly, a reminder of the conflict between wealth and purpose, ambition and authenticity. In that critical moment, as the minivan remained stagnant on the road, Alex faced a crossroads. Would he lean into this burgeoning connection and embrace the risk of transformation, or retreat back to his familiar but unfulfilling life? The fork ahead promised new paths, but which one should he choose? The air inside the minivan buzzed with palpable energy, as if the weight of possibility hung heavily between Alex and Maria. Each word exchanged felt like stepping stones on a path he was only just beginning to discern. As Maria detailed her vision, Alex became increasingly aware of the chasm he was straddling. One foot in the world of high-stakes business, and the other teetering on the edge of something purpose-driven and genuine. "I want to support single parents, Alex," Maria said, her voice rising with energy. "They're navigating so many challenges. It's not just about financial support. Emotional and community backing is just as vital. Imagine a resource center that offers workshops and childcare." Her conviction was infectious, but each idea evoked his internal conflict. Could he, in all his corporate armor, transcend the everyday battle of profit margins and shareholder meetings? The thought sent a shiver down his spine. It was undeniable. He was drawn to her vision, yet apprehension clawed at him as he realized the personal risks entailed in stepping outside his comfort zone. Isn't there a way to blend both? He offered cautiously. You know, a way that brings in revenue while also providing support? She regarded him thoughtfully, the undercurrents of their conversation intensifying. Maybe. But it would have to be more than a facade. People can see through that in an instant. Her words echoed inside him. Was he trying to festoon his desire for meaning with old instincts of marketability? The sensation felt like walking a tightrope, teetering between two stark realities. He had spent years mastering how to monetize ideas, yet the fear of being seen as inauthentic loomed large. I won't pretend this is a straightforward path, he admitted, leaning closer. I can strategize funding, pitch to businesses, even craft marketing materials to attract people. But if it's not genuine, then what's the point? The question hovered above them, a metric of his evolving conscience. Maria's eyes softened, perhaps sensing the battle raging within him. Maybe the challenge lies in creating something that doesn't just look good on paper, but feels right in the heart. In that moment, her gaze locked onto his, a connection forged not just by differing worlds but by a shared commitment to authenticity. Alex realized that he craved the genuine connection over the deceitful allure of superficial success. Could he start redefining his own sense of worth not by his salary, but by his ability to foster change? As they continued to explore ideas, Alex found himself articulating plans with a newfound fervor. The way Maria lit up when envisioning possibilities sparked a realization he'd been blind to. What if he could be not just a cog in the corporate machine, but a catalyst for genuine social good? Yet the deeper they delved into this endeavor, the more he felt the burdens of his current life rear their heads. Images of board meetings, profit analyses, and the pressure to maintain a polished image surged in his mind. What would his colleagues think if he devoted his time to a project like Maria's? Would they respect him, or would they label him a failure? In the midst of these thoughts, he heard the soft voice of one of Maria's children cut through the tension. Are we going to the park now, Mom? The innocent inquiry shifted the energy back to reality. Not yet, honey, she replied gently. The children's laughter felt like an anchor, reminding him that there were lives outside their own ambitions, challenges beyond his own world of finance. As the conversation drew to an end, Alex closed his eyes for a moment, overwhelmed. I'll think about it, he promised. But inside, he knew that this conversation had shifted more than just his perspective. It was urging him to confront his commitment to a legacy of emptiness versus one of empowerment. But that promise rested heavily on his shoulders as Maria's face brightened with hope. Just then, the nagging thought returned. He could reject this path and return to the ease of familiar pursuits, or he could risk everything for something far greater than himself. In that moment, the options crystallized, setting the stage for an unavoidable confrontation. Would he embrace the challenge that lay ahead, or slip back into the nightmarish comfort of his entrenched business world? The next chapter beckoned, and it held the key to his metamorphosis or his demise. How entwined his worlds would become hung on that tantalizing precipice. The minivan's engine hummed to life, and Alex slid into the passenger seat, his heart racing with uncertainty. As Maria drove through the familiar streets of their city, his mind spun with thoughts of their conversation. Each stoplight felt like a pause in time, drawing him deeper into contemplation. She had presented him with an intoxicating opportunity, but all he could see were the shadows of doubt. Why was it so difficult to pivot toward a purpose that felt true? He observed Maria, her hands confidently gripping the wheel, and felt an unsettling mixture of admiration and envy wash over him. While she was ready to embrace the unpredictable, he was still chained to the meticulous charts and forecasts of his corporate existence. That revelation gnawed at him. Was he simply afraid to lose the delicate stability he had cultivated? The minivan turned onto a quieter street, lined with trees that cast dappled shadows across the road. They passed a playground where children squealed with joy, a scene that echoed Maria's mission, and Alex found himself longing for that vitality. What was it that made people like Maria push beyond comfort and safety? He felt the urgency to find his own courage swelling within him, yet every flicker of inspiration seemed muffled beneath layers of insecurity. I'm organizing a community meeting next week, Maria announced, drawing him from his thoughts. "I'd love for you to help out, maybe formulate a plan or budget." Her voice was laced with enthusiasm, and for the briefest moment, hope sparked within him. But the trepidation re-emerged, swirling like a storm. "What can I possibly contribute?" he replied, the words tumbling out before he could stop them. "I'm not a community planner. I'm just a businessman." Maria glanced at him, her expression calm but piercing. Business skills can be incredibly valuable in building something that lasts. You think differently. Your background, it's an asset, not a liability. Her encouragement ignited a fire deep inside him, though fear smothered its light. But what if it fails? I can't be the guy trying to juggle the complexities of a humanitarian effort when I've spent my life smashing numbers into submission. Every great endeavor has its risks, she reminded him gently. What if you could learn something new from this? Discover parts of yourself you've kept hidden? The possibility was tempting. He imagined wielding his skills for more than just quarterly reports. He envisioned pivoting from the sterile confines of conference rooms to vibrant sessions filled with laughter and collaboration. But each vision entwined with the fear of uncertainty, a fear that had always driven him to maintain control. As they reached a red light, Alex looked out the window at a group of people chatting on the sidewalk, representing a world he had distanced himself from. He wondered if they had ever felt lost in their lives, questioning their paths. "Maybe you could start by leading one workshop," Maria suggested, her voice breaking into his reverie. "Share your expertise on budgeting or planning. Making money shouldn't be the whole story." His gut twisted painfully. The thought of standing in front of a group sharing his knowledge in a way that felt personal instead of transactional sent an adrenaline rush through him. There was a pull towards it, yet an equally strong push beckoned him back to what he knew. "What would they think of me?" he asked aloud, questioning himself more than her. "I mean, here I am, a suit, talking to people about pain and resilience. Maybe they'd see someone ready to step into something bigger than himself," she replied, her words echoing in his mind long after they passed the light. The rest of the drive felt charged with an anticipatory energy. He weighed their discussion against the landscape of choices laid before him. Could he really step beyond the confines of his identity? Could he risk everything to embrace something profound? As they parked outside a cafe, Maria turned to face him. "Think on it, Alex. You can choose to hide behind your corporate armor, or you can forge a new path." When she said that, he realized his decision to engage in her vision was about asserting himself, but more importantly, it's about who he could become. At that moment, standing at the brink of his choices, he sensed the winds of change breathing on him. But whether he would surrender to that wind or resist it remained a formidable question. With a deep breath, Alex nodded, ready to take steps toward a future he couldn't predict, but deeply hoped for. Perhaps the next week would become a defining moment, a crucible for growth, or it could lead him deeper into the abyss of indecision. The stakes were rising, and the path ahead shimmered with daunting potential. Could the tremors of his discomfort lead him to an unexpected strength? Would he rise to a challenge far greater than he had ever imagined, or slip back into the shadow of safety he once cherished? The answer loomed tantalizingly close just beyond the next turn. Once inside the cafe, Alex felt the walls closing in. The vibrant colors and laughter swirling around him seemed both inviting and suffocating. He could hear Maria's voice in his head, promising growth and new beginnings, yet the familiar grasp of his corporate identity clung to him like a second skin. Struggling to reconcile the unfamiliarity of it all, he traced the smooth rim of his coffee cup, the steam curling up like his thoughts, chaotic yet momentarily contained. "Are you all right?" Maria's voice broke through his thoughts, drawing his gaze upward. She wore a warm smile, eyes dancing with encouragement, completely unaware of the tempest raging inside him. "Just thinking," he managed to reply, trying to mask the flux sweeping through him. His impulse was to retreat, to settle for the comfort of spreadsheets and forecasts, but another part of him craved the thrill of venturing into uncharted territory. "Thinking about the workshop?" Maria prompted, the enthusiasm in her voice buoyant. "This could be your chance to take a step out of the box, to connect what you know to help others." He took a sip of coffee as he deliberated, feeling every drop as a reminder of the juicy possibilities and the risks. What if he failed? What if he didn't know how to make an impact? But was it not more compelling to stretch beyond self-imposed limits? A flash of determination flickered in his chest. What if I wrote down some ideas? He suggested tentatively, feeling the rush of anxiety laced with excitement. I could outline budgeting strategies that could help people in need. It almost felt revolutionary. Maria's eyes gleamed with pride. That's the spirit. Start with what you know and let the rest flow. You'd be surprised what can come from a simple idea if you let it breathe. Her confidence spurred him forward, and as they shared ideas over steaming cups, Alex began tapping into a reservoir of skills he had forgotten existed. He scribbled notes on napkins, connecting financial strategies with community welfare, and with each stroke the discomfort of vulnerability started to morph into something akin to exhilaration. By the time they stepped out, the sun was low in the sky, casting long shadows across the pavement. He felt lighter. The weight of hesitation began to lift, but it hovered on the edge of his thoughts. Could he maintain this momentum? This blossoming passion felt electric. Would it hold once faced with the realities of leading a workshop? His phone buzzed with a text, an invitation from a colleague to meet up for a strategy session. In that moment, his instinct was to accept, to retreat to the familiar and safe world of corporate jargon, but something deeper pulled at him. Would this be the moment he chose to pivot entirely? "What's the matter?" Maria asked, noticing his hesitation. "Do I really want to go back to that life?" He whispered aloud, half in disbelief at his own burgeoning transformation. The words weighed heavy, yet liberated him. "No," he finally declared, shaking his head as if shaking off the remnants of an old skin. "I want to commit to this. I want to try and honestly impact lives, including my own." "Then let's plan the workshop together," Maria said, her voice steady with resolve. "It's time you took what you've learned and turned it into something valuable for yourself and others." As they began to outline a timeline and potential topics, Alex felt anchored in purpose. Each bullet point was not just a plan. It was a step toward shaping a new identity, one crafted from courage and centered on connection. But unresolved feelings swirled beneath the surface like an undertow. Would his corporate skills be enough? What if he faltered in this endeavor? Could he handle the emotional weight it would entail? As they parted ways under a starry sky, the excitement of the day mingled with lingering doubts. The push and pull of possibility versus fear left him grasping for reassurance, yet he felt a thrill ripple through him as he stepped into the unpredictable. What awaited him on this new path? Time would tell, but he knew one thing. He was no longer willing to let doubt dictate his choices. It was time to confront his fears head-on, turning them into the fuel that could propel him forward. The question remained, could he rise as a leader, or would he encounter walls designed to test his resolve? The moment of truth was fast approaching, and as he reflected on his journey ahead, he sensed that the most profound challenges were yet to come. The soothing rustle of the nearby trees contrasted sharply with the tension inside Alex's chest as he faced the reality of his choice. The rush of possibilities surged through him like an electric current, forcing him to acknowledge the looming shadows of self-doubt still lurking in his mind. He walked home, each step a combination of excitement and trepidation. A flicker of determination ignited anew. Who was he kidding? All his years spent crafting spreadsheets and analyzing data were not mere flukes. They were skills. His ability to comprehend financial complexities was a tool, one he could use to create meaningful, tangible change. The realization propelled him forward, but he stalled at an intersection and closed his eyes for a second to collect himself. "Focus, Alex," he murmured. "This is your chance." As he crossed the street, his phone buzzed again, pulling him momentarily from his thoughts. A message from a mentor, Danielle, another financial strategist, complimenting his insights during a recent conference. She'd offered him a chance to collaborate on a project that required precision and a deep understanding of market trends. Yet for the first time, the thought of accepting felt different. Was that really the path he wanted to pursue? Or was he simply falling back into old, comfortable habits? Arriving home, he grabbed a notebook, wanting to capture the torrent of ideas swirling in his mind. He sat at the kitchen table, his heart racing as he began outlining the workshop. A timeline, core topics, and essential objectives quickly filled the pages. The act of writing grounded him, morphing abstract concepts into concrete actions. He pored over financial strategies, integrating real-life applications that could empower participants, connecting numbers to human lives. But the weight of his past loomed large. What if his old colleagues mocked him? What if he stumbled when addressing questions, the judgment piercing through him like icy daggers? His original environment had been one of fierce competition, where vulnerability could be exploited. He scribbled harsh words into the margins, a pulsating reminder of his insecurities. A wry smile crept onto his face. Ironically, those fears were precisely what he could address through his own story. He could openly share his transition from the corporate grind to this workshop. His previous life was not a handicap but a tool for connection. As the sun slid beyond the horizon, casting hues of orange and purple across the sky, he envisioned standing at the front of a small room, people attentively listening, engaged. Would he be able to inspire them? Could he maintain that spirit of excitement and commitment throughout the sessions? His pen continued to move fluidly across the paper, despite the turmoil brewing within him. Each word was an affirmation, building a framework for not just a workshop, but for his metamorphosis. Bit by bit, he began to see himself in a new light, the catalyst of change. Sleep escaped him that night, thoughts racing, weaving between visions of triumph and nightmares of failure. Questions began to surface in his mind, growing sharper and more defined. How did someone transition from being a cog in the corporate wheel to a leader who inspired others? What could he pull from his corporate experience that was both relevant and uplifting? As dawn broke, illuminating his bedroom in fresh clarity, he made a decision. Today would mark the beginning of his active engagement with transformation. No more hiding behind excuses or fear. He would practice a few introductory discussions with Maria. Her contagious enthusiasm would ground him, illuminating the path ahead like a lighthouse. But deeper undercurrents hesitated in the back of his mind. What if he misstepped? What if confronting his past instead of burying it drove him to question the very foundation of his skills? Shaking those thoughts away, he took a deep breath. The essence of change was in resilience, and he was ready to embrace each shifting moment. As he prepared to reach out to Maria, a new message popped up on his phone. This time it was from a workshop organization interested in collaboration, wanting to know his thoughts on a joint venture. The potential for comprehensive engagement tugged at him, combining both his passions. But could he reveal the raw truth of who he was now among seasoned experts? His heart raced anew as he contemplated the message. The upcoming conversation could either fortify his resolve or plunge him deeper into uncertainty. The moment to respond was at hand. Would he dive into the unknown, or revert to the safety of numbers? The answer loomed close like clouds gathering before a storm. The soft glow of the morning sun spilled into Alex's room, illuminating the notes strewn about his workspace. Each hastily written thought echoed the duality of his mind, an amalgam of fear and determination. He picked up his phone, hesitating over the message that still awaited a response. The offer pinged around in his thoughts like a loose marble on a tiled floor, diverting his focus from the workshop he'd been so intent on creating. With a deep breath, he wobbled between two options. Should he dive into this project, a collaboration with industry veterans, or should he invest all his energy into his own venture, a workshop built on the very insecurities he was beginning to confront head-on? Hadn't he determined to break free from the shadows of his previous life? The stakes felt higher than ever, as if every moment teetered on the edge of a decision with profound consequences. Eventually, he swiped the notification open. The workshop organization wanted to schedule a call. They were eager to harness his emerging expertise, but were also entrusting him with the assumption that he had expertise to offer. A pang of nervous excitement ignited within him. This opportunity could offer him a platform to genuinely showcase his skills, but could he harness the momentum? Shoving his phone into his pocket, Alex took a moment to pace the quiet confines of his apartment. Each step echoed that internal conflict, the rhythm of his boot against the hardwood resonating within him. He was not the person he used to be. He'd grown while nestled deep within his insecurities, but was that enough to stand tall amidst seasoned professionals? Maybe that was the key. His experience, the fear and turmoil that burdened him, could become the raw material for a more authentic conversation. Perhaps humility and vulnerability could pave the way for genuine connection, rather than a polished facade. This belief stirred and sparked something new in him, the possibility that his story could resonate with others who also felt out of place or unworthy. He reached out to Maria, hoping to share his excitement, grounding himself in her spirited enthusiasm that had always reminded him of the joy intertwined with personal growth. When Maria answered, her voice tangy with joy, Alex wasted no time. "Hey, I think I'm ready to run some ideas past you. I've had some thoughts on how to frame my workshop, but I need your perspective." As they discussed the concepts, the ideas flowed. Maria's excitement was contagious, igniting his determination as they bounced thoughts back and forth, refining his focus, shaping it into a tangible outline. Yet lurking beneath those vibrant exchanges was the nagging reminder of his impending call with the workshop organization. "I want to emphasize the importance of real finance, how it impacts people on a personal level," he shared eagerly, his passion igniting every word, but recalled moments of doubt loomed nearby. What if Maria saw through the bravado and noticed cracks in his confidence? "Alex," she said, jolting him back to the present, "your vision is already compelling. Just remember, what you bring to the table is not just expertise, it's authenticity." Her words anchored him, but the call remained an ever-present specter in the back of his mind. Would he bring that authenticity into the meeting? Could he manage the duality of wisdom learned from years of consultancy while revealing his authentic self? Hours ticked by like the slow drip of a leaky faucet. The list of qualities he needed to embody, the pressure to perform, danced between determination and fear, layering itself over every drafted line of presentation he prepared. As the hour of the call approached, Alex glanced at the clock, the hands inching closer to the pivotal moment. He felt the familiar tension tightening in his chest. Doubts began their insidious creep again. Suddenly, he found himself doubting everything. Perhaps this was a project that required a polished expert, not a man grappling with his identity, but remembering Maria's words reignited a flicker of resolve. The essence of growth thrived on imperfection. The moment had come for him to stand on the precipice between what he once was and who he was destined to become. With one last deep breath, he steadied himself. The call would commence in seconds, but he was ready to push through the storm. Who would he choose to represent today? Would he unveil the depths of his journey to those who had long since perfected the art of surface-level success? As the phone rang, a shiver of anticipation coursed through him. Would this be the moment that defined his next step, or would it drown him in uncertainty? Time held its breath as he gathered his courage, crossing the threshold into a space filled with tension and possibility. "Hello, Alex?" A smooth, confident voice emerged from the other end of the line, cutting through the thick air of his pending anxiety. It belonged to Mark, a seasoned entrepreneur whose accomplishments had earned him a reputation far and wide. The ease in his tone contrasted starkly with the turmoil thrumming in Alex's heart. "Hi, Mark. Thanks for taking the time to speak with me today," Alex managed, forcing his voice to steady despite the storm brewing within. He could feel every twitch of uncertainty bleeding into his words. "It's my pleasure. I've been reviewing your proposal for the workshop, and I must say it has real potential," Mark continued. The acknowledgement made Alex's stomach twist. Could this even be real? As they proceeded into a discussion about logistics and frameworks, Alex struggled to maintain a confident facade. The conversation flowed, but each query Mark posed landed like an ice-cold splash of water, demanding clarity. Alex had to dig deep into his past experiences, balancing pre-learned jargon with the vulnerability he yearned to express. Suddenly, they pivoted to the issue of practical expectations. "What do you envision as the core takeaway for participants?" Mark's inquiry shifted the ground beneath Alex's feet. In that moment, all the carefully rehearsed answers dissolved like sugar in water. Authenticity surged to the forefront of his thoughts, the very element he had been afraid to embrace. I want them to understand finance isn't just about numbers but a personal journey. It's about their aspirations and fears, he articulated, allowing honesty to soften his tone. There was a pause on the other end and Alex's heart raced. Had he overstepped? Perhaps the corporate jargon would have sufficed. Yet there was something liberating in that moment of unguarded honesty. The weight on his shoulders felt lighter for the first time. Mark responded, "That's a fresh perspective, and it's what we're lacking in most workshops. Authentic narratives resonate, and they'll create genuine connections with the audience." Alex was stunned. The validation resonated deeply within him, awakening a slumbering confidence. As the conversation deepened, they navigated through intricate layers of engagement strategies. Each time Mark complimented Alex's insight, a warmth layered over his apprehension, stripping away the armor of doubt. But with every affirmation, shadows of insecurity started to seep through the cracks. Was it just professional courtesy? Or was he genuinely being seen for who he was? Would his vulnerability translate into trust and respect within the industry? When the call concluded, Alex felt a rush of adrenaline coursing through him. He had stepped into a space where he could not only share his skills, but also his journey, a delicate intertwining of personal and professional growth. Each heartbeat thudded with a mix of exhilaration and fears, but a newfound flame was lit. Reflecting on his meeting, Alex sat again at his desk, the workshop notes stretched before him. He felt the weight of his narrative, the knots of his past untangling with every word he typed. Here was a man, not merely standing at the intersection of two careers but leaping into forging a path of purpose. But the relief was short-lived. There remained an edge of anxiety gnawing at the corner of his mind. He had yet to confront the bigger question: how could he transform this moment of clarity into sustained momentum? He needed to face the ultimate test. He could not let this opportunity slip into another whisper in the wind. With that, he resolved to reach out again to Mark, not merely as a follow-up but with a proposal for a collaborative event to solidify his place in this new space. Maybe, just maybe, this could be a turning point in his story. A shift from uncertainty to unwavering purpose. However, a gnawing doubt persisted. What if he failed to capture this moment? The journey had begun, but there remained obstacles ahead. As the sun dipped below the horizon, Alex wondered, would he be able to navigate the complexities of this new venture, or would he crumble under added pressure? Meanwhile, another important call loomed on the horizon, this one potentially linked to a partnership that could change everything. The path was unfolding, and every decision mattered now more than ever. Determined to secure a meaningful collaboration and build on the momentum from his conversation with Mark, Alex spent the early hours of the next day crafting an email. Words gushed out like a torrent. He penned every idea bubbling to the surface since their discussion, weaving together his vision for a cooperative workshop that emphasized authenticity in finance. Each phrase was a step toward solidifying his ambitions, his fingers dancing over the keyboard as he articulated hopes that had long been murmured only within the confines of his mind. Yet, as the email reached its final sentences, a creeping doubt gripped him. Would Mark see the brilliance in his proposal? Would it come across as ambitious or merely naive? The very thought sent shivers down his spine. He hesitated, fingers hovering over the send button. This was no longer just a follow-up. It was a declaration of who he intended to be in this professional realm. Not just an aspirant, but a true influencer. Taking a deep breath, he aimed to silence the anxiety by focusing on the personal stakes. He was not just seeking approval. He was yearning for validation of his journey, the kind that underscored the importance of honesty and connection. Alex pressed send. The finality echoed in his mind like a drumbeat, one that rang with both excitement and trepidation. Moments turned to hours and the email went unanswered. Each passing minute twisted tighter around his heart, a reverberation of uncertainty questioning his decision. He cycled through every possible scenario, a spiral of imagination fueled by both hope and fear. Then finally, when the clock ticked into the late afternoon, a ping disrupted the silence, and his pulse quickened. "It's Mark," he whispered, almost pleading with the universe itself. Opening the email filled him with dread and anticipation. Mark's words were encouraging and supportive. They were realistic, but nevertheless reassuring. He envisioned the workshop molding not only financial acumen, but also fostering trust and openness among participants, values Alex felt were sorely missing in his previous professional experiences. But just as he began to feel the weight lifting, Mark's final line crashed into his buoyancy. However, I think we should more formally structure your role in the workshop before moving forward. Let's discuss your expectations during our next call. The implications of that statement hung around him like a storm cloud. With every ounce of determination, Alex had fought for this opportunity, yet the thought of shaping his role threw him into a tempest of new challenges. What if he faltered? What if he revealed more than he was ready to? The idea of navigating that conversation felt like standing on the edge of a steep cliff. In the midst of this turmoil, an unexpected call came through. The number was unfamiliar. Heated curiosity ignited inside him. Maybe it's an opportunity, he muttered under his breath, hopeful. Hello, Alex? A stern yet warm voice on the other line cut through his fleeting optimism. Yes, who is this? He managed, though his pulse quickened. I'm Rachel. I work at a financial advisory firm, and I've heard great things about your recent proposal. Her tone was businesslike, infused with an energy that was both assertive and welcoming. We'd like to explore a partnership regarding an upcoming initiative we're launching. As their conversation unfolded, Alex grasped that Rachel had connections he could only dream of. Their discussion revolved around synergies that could catapult the reach of his own ideas, blending them with an established entity. The opportunity was potent, but so was the weight of responsibility. Could he truly navigate the complexities of this new venture, while maintaining the authenticity he just started to embrace? With the call ending, Alex's thoughts raced. He had a chance to elevate his potential influence within the industry, yet it required making choices under pressure, a test against which he had to measure himself. Would he be ready to face the scrutiny, to risk revealing vulnerability again amidst newfound expectations? In the encroaching dusk, Alex sat in contemplation, contemplating his next move. Could he balance this dual path, attending to Mark's workshop while entertaining this unexpected partnership with Rachel? The one thing he knew with certainty was that clarity had never emerged from comfort. And now, the moment had arrived. The night deepened around him. Tension coiled within as he grappled with the decision looming ahead. Would he step into the unknown, or lean back into the safety of his habitual existence? With shadows casting long on his ambitions, one undeniable fact hung in the air. The time had come to face the pressing choices defining his purpose and future in ways he had never anticipated. As dawn broke, Alex Thompson sat at his kitchen table surrounded by the remnants of last night's frantic brainstorming. The light streamed through the window, casting patterns over his unwritten future. Beneath the clutter lay a rough outline of his workshop, each point a step toward a new identity he was constructing. One less anchored in profitability and more in purpose. Each idea felt like a new strand weaving into the fabric of who he was becoming. He had picked apart the doubts that had once paralyzed him, seeing them transform into stepping stones rather than stumbling blocks. The specter of his past life was ever present, but he now possessed the tools to shape his narrative differently. With his phone beside him still buzzing from the recent uptick in communication, Alex finally felt a stirring of excitement coursing through him. He picked it up, typing, revising, then hitting send on a follow-up to Mark. I'm ready to discuss the structure of my role, he wrote, allowing the potential of this new venture to crack through the shell of his apprehension. This time, he wasn't merely responding. He was owning the narrative. Weeks of hesitation melted into focused effort. The email was a trigger, a line of demarcation in his journey, marking the shift from uncertainty toward commitment. The anticipation of Mark's reply propelled him forward. Alex was poised to engage with his own ambitions, ready to meld his corporate strategy with the sense of community he had found with Maria. Maria, who had sparked this transformation, continued to be his anchor. They met frequently, sketching out plans for the workshop together, refining strategies that mattered, aligning them not just with financial literacy, but with emotional enlightenment. "Remember," Maria would say, clasping her hands as if sealing a pact, "this is about more than the numbers. It's about lives changed." In those moments he felt the weight of what he had become, a person integrating ambition with empathy. Each cooperative session brought tangible rewards, not just smoothed edges of an abstract idea, but solid community bonds. The kind of connections that wouldn't be measured by quarterly reports. The day of the launch event arrived. Nervous energy buzzed through him almost to the point of panic. The venue was small yet vibrant, filled with hesitant faces eager to absorb the knowledge he had worked tirelessly to curate. As he stood before the audience, a swell of recognition enveloped him. This was a space where his story, laden with entrepreneurial grit and heartfelt discoveries, would unfurl. Taking a deep breath, Alex stepped into the spotlight. "I want to share something that transcends finance," he declared, every heartbeat synchronizing with the crowd as he finally embraced his vulnerabilities. "My journey through numbers has taught me that behind every statistic, there's a story. Today, let's explore your stories together." That moment marked a definitive shift. He spoke not just about monetary value, but about the stories interwoven with financial struggles. Each point he raised resonated deeply. He tackled adversity, highlighting those very doubts that accompanied their journeys. As Maria's words echoed in his mind, he felt the power of genuine connection surfacing above mere transaction. The room transformed as the workshop unfolded. People reacted, shared experiences, and connected in ways he had longed for yet never believed possible. The alchemy of his newfound purpose ignited a fire that burned brightly within him. After the final slide, a sense of relief and awe washed over him. The applauding audience recognized him not just for his financial insight, but for the humanity intertwined within it. Their respect felt substantial, real, flowing toward him as an acknowledgement that he had stepped beyond mere ambition into a realm of meaningful contribution. And as he stepped off that stage, exhilaration coursing through his veins, a different kind of achievement radiated from Alex. This was more than just a successful workshop. It was the validation of a profound personal evolution. He was no longer just a corporate warrior, but a catalyst for change. Life beyond this room beckoned with new challenges. Each conversation with Maria had enriched him, but now, thrust into a world where he could intertwine personal connection with professional zeal, he felt invincible. He had proved to himself that vulnerability could be strength, and that genuine contributions redefine success far beyond financial metrics. With the sun setting behind him, casting golden hues that symbolized hope and new beginnings, he held the promise of his future tightly. He had arrived at a pivotal moment not by abandoning his past but by embracing it, transforming it into a rich narrative of growth, understanding, and ultimately fulfillment. He was ready to face whatever lay ahead with unwavering courage. Now he would not just subscribe to someone else's narrative but author his own, one that would continue to inspire both him and those around him. This is the moment to show your support. Subscribe immediately to the channel to not miss the next exclusive emotional stories. Leave a like now to feed the algorithm and help spread these heartfelt journeys. Comment your reactions and theories about the ending. We want to hear from you. Share instantly this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this conclusion. Don't wait even one more second to share. Only true fans of personal overcoming stories understand the profound impact of these actions.